This is the explanation of the drawing to the song, The Most Blessed Life. I want to just read from my explanation of the picture. The pillar of fire. One night, as I contemplated the Exodus account and subsequent wanderings in the desert, I placed myself in the view shown in this drawing. What a spectacular sight this must have been. I want to cut away here and show you all the little people. When I envisioned this pillar of fire going before the children of Israel, this is basically what I came up with. See, if you look right here, this is Moses and Aaron, and maybe, I'm not sure who I thought that was, maybe Miriam is in that crowd. And then you get into all the people and their animals. They were led at night by the pillar of fire, and by day, pillar of cloud. All the way back. And who knows how tall this pillar of fire was? It may have dwarfed the Twin Towers for all we know. What a marvelous sight this must have been. The throng. The Exodus from Egypt numbered 600,000 men, aside from children. Adding wives and children, this multitude may have been 2 million people that came out of Egypt. And to add all the animals, what a throng. God was leading the Israelites into the land promised to Abraham, but it took 40 years for them to arrive. That means they wandered around in circles, zigzags, and more circles for 40 years. If you read the accounts of their wanderings, you will find they brought that delay upon themselves. Their rebellions and lack of faith delayed entry into the promised land. He was not going to bring them in until they had reached an acceptable level of obedience. And he was not in a big hurry. If you read the whole story, you will find the Israelites never were perfect, but they did have to reach a certain threshold before God was willing to move them forward out of the desert. In my life, I want to get through deserts as quickly as possible. I want to serve God in lands of victorious conquest, successful ministries, and move toward the final promised land with as little delay as possible. But my timetable and God's is often out of sync. I had one experience that changed the way I look at people, or events, or seasons in my journey, and I hope I never forget the lesson. And here's what happened. I was on staff at Fort Lauderdale Beach Christian Center, which was a gospel mission, a street gospel mission. And 4 nights a week I played the guitar before the Bible study and the gospel presentation. So what happened, at 5 o'clock we'd open up the doors for anybody that wanted to come in, 6 o'clock feed anybody that was there, 7 o'clock we had music and a gospel presentation which no one was required to be at. Then 8 o'clock we'd check people in, 9 o'clock we'd close the front door, and 10 o'clock was lights out. At one point there was a young man who started sitting right in front of me when I was sitting and playing the guitar, and he meticulously watched my fingers as I played. I do a lot of finger picking, so I didn't think too much about it. And most of the time he was very quiet, but every once in a while something would set him off and he would explode and storm out. He had a real drinking problem as part of it. He started hanging around me in those early parts of the evening as I conversed with others, and he would stick out his hand to shake mine. This occurred several times with nothing unusual about it. But then one night he put out his hand, and I was talking to someone else, and I instinctively responded and put forth my hand. And he grabbed my fingers, not the meat of my hand. He began to squeeze, and I suddenly realized his grip was designed to break my fingers. As he was increasing the pressure, I bore straight into his eyes and I stated as firmly and controlled as possible, "Ron, let go of my fingers. His pressure steadied, and I repeated the demand/warning. No one else existed in the entire universe at that moment for either one of us. After a few seconds, he released my fingers and went storming out of the mission. By the time that night concluded, and after I was alone in my room, I had one overwhelming desire. I wanted to pulverize him. Now some of you might cry out, and you say you're a Christian. You're supposed to love your enemies and forgive them, and cry over them, and love them, and offer the other hand. Well, to say I wanted to pulverize him is actually an understatement. So I'm even worse than you think. All I can say is I am who I am, and I'm at where I'm at. That's not an excuse for anything, but I can only be who I am, and I cannot grow myself, and I don't even want to. I don't want to grow myself as a Christian. I want God to grow me. I want to grow with the growth which is from God. Anyway, by the next day, I came to some very simple conclusions. Actually, what happened, we'd have a daily meeting, and we all got together, and I told them about Ron and what happened, and how I just wanted to mangle him. But anyway, so I settled myself down a little bit, and I asked everybody to pray for me, and then this is what I prayed. This is the conclusion I came to. Lord, I don't believe it's an accident that Ron and I have crossed paths. I believe you want to use this situation to teach me something or some things. I ask you not to take him out of my life until I have learned what you want me to learn. I think it was at that moment that I had learned what he wanted me to learn. Why do I think that? Well, I never saw Ron again. I think God wanted me to trust him with all my heart, acknowledge him in all my ways, and not lean to my own understanding. People or events in my life are not just random circumstance. The Lord God Almighty has posted himself in front of me and behind me and around me. Satan cannot have at me, much less any man, without God's approval. He knows what needs to be let in to accomplish his primary agenda, which is to make me more like his son. I have no idea what is necessary in order to accomplish that phenomenal feat. He does. Well, since that time, as I've found myself in particularly unpleasant circumstances, various sized deserts, you might say, I have more readily come before him with that same prayer request. Of course, I've always hoped that it would work again like it did with Ron. But, as you might suspect, there haven't been any other instances of instant deliverance. But that hasn't changed the request. I do not want to be delivered from any desert that I enter into before I've learned whatever it is he wants me to learn. I don't want to stay in any wasteland 1 second longer than necessary, but I don't want to leave 1 second too soon either. I don't want to repeat and thus wander around in a circle in the desert. I want to gain ground and move forward. Now, back to the drawing. The night sky. As we have gained greater ability to peer into the vast expanses of the universe, the immensity and content in our universe is mind-boggling. Its beauty and threats are beyond comprehension. Some have suggested that if this is the only planet with life, what a waste of the rest of the universe. But I do believe this is the only planet that contains sentient, morally accountable life, and maybe the only one that has any life at all. In fact, I think that's probably the probability. There are some basic Bible teachings about sin and death that have led me to such a position. You can read about this in my free ebook, Death in the Bible. I believe this great expanse is God's decorum for us and speaks of the massiveness and creative ability of God. With no effort and no waste, he can simply make all this and then in another moment roll it up like a worn out garment and then create an entirely new heavens and earth where righteousness dwells. You see, it is not just the universe that holds immeasurable beauties and intricacies. Our own planet is so exquisite that its physical marvel is past us finding out. All kinds of marvels are, quote, wasted here too. For example, I have a photo on my website of a, quote, weed flower that grows each summer on my fence row in Kentucky. That flower is on a vine, and if it was not in existence, probably wouldn't have much impact on anything. You know, since I've written this article, I found out what that flower is. There was a horticulturist, I actually went to his home to do some work, and I said, you know, there's a particular weed flower I found, have on my website. I'd really like to know what it is. So I described it to him, and he disappeared, and I continued to talk to his wife, and then he came back and he had a book, and he opened it up and he said, is this it? And I said, that's it. It's called the passion flower. I said, wow, what a great name, the passion flower, for this weed flower that I fell in love with. But not only are the marvels in the universe beyond finding out, and the marvels of our planet beyond finding out, but our physical being contains intricacies and mysteries that overwhelm the greatest of contemplative minds. So in a total consistency, whether we're examining the universe, our planet, our own body, everything God creates is infinitely beyond us. He wastes, that's in quotes, nothing. He creates as a display of his incalculable abilities. That's what he does. For the entire universe to exist as decorum for us would not surprise me at all. He said he made the stars to separate the day from the night, for signs and seasons, and for days and for years, and to give light on the earth. That's why he said he made them. That's their purpose. It may very well be that we are indeed the center of the universe. You know what I'm saying? The universe lies around us as a painting of God. His paint is of different substance than our paint. He has allowed this generation to get a greater glimpse of his materials and canvas.